Welcome back to Distorted Opinions. New year, new episode, guys. And I'm here with Matt and Ted as always. We're really excited because we have our first guests of the new year with us. We're here with Ray and Joda from the Slayerbytes podcast. Guys, welcome to the show.
Gentlemen, welcome.
About time.
What up, guys?
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. I'm glad we were able to finally work something out with the schedules here. So we were trying to plan out our topics for this show, and we realized that there are way too many things that we'd like to potentially discuss for this to fit into one episode. So we're already planning that this is at least going to be a two-part show. This first episode, we thought that we might start out by getting to know Ray and Joda a little bit more, talk about their podcast, and then the next episode, we'll get a bit more into our mutual love for music and how our musical tastes have evolved a little bit. So let's get right into it. Again, welcome, guys. We're glad to have you here. It's been a long time in the making.
And for those that are wondering if they can't see the video, we are clearly social distancing.
Yes, that's right. We're all in our respective homes, which is made easier by the fact that Ray and Joda are in the opposite side of the country. So,
yep,
I know.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely
we got
social distancing here.
opposite coasts,
just a couple miles away.
right?
Joda's in the next room with me, so.
I mean, he may as well be. You have a nice house, by the way.
Just
This Christmas background, it's pretty fancy.
Oh yeah, man! I just put up the Christmas tree and the stockings
fire?
look like they're about to catch on fire. Yeah, honestly, so that's a little concerning. But yeah, man.
So I think the general introduction and how we all have learned about you guys is the fact that Ray started playing drums on Twitch, and being a fan of heavy metal music, and that tag was on your stream, which helped me find you. And being a drummer myself, just looking for good drumming on Twitch, stumbled upon your stream, and it turned out that it was like your second stream ever. And I've been glued to it ever since, and just really enjoyed the community. And Joda's a moderator on your channel, and get to meet some of your friends that were hanging out and supporting you in your stream. And then I was like, Ray's got a really good stream. Hey, Caleb, Matt, you guys got to check this guy out. It's really good. And the community's super awesome. So that kind of got us all together here. And on top of everything else, you guys have your own podcast as well. So that is also pretty awesome that you guys already have the equipment. You do this already. So getting you guys on this, certainly makes things pretty easy.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's been crazy though with how like the internet can bring random people like this together. Like just you stumbling on my second Twitch stream ever, and you've stuck around since then. That was in like August or September. And now,
could have been August.
Around there, it's like, it was around there when I lost my job, and I'm like, oh shit, like COVID hit me. Now it's time to like figure shit out. But anyway, it's just cool that it's like you've brought your friends in here. I've made like random new friends on Twitch that I've never met in real life. So the Twitch thing's been a cool experience, and to have to be able to do this with you guys and be on your podcast, and then Joda's here too. It's just been really cool. Yeah. I'm excited.
No, it's definitely pretty great. And so I think part of the introduction that we had planned, obviously you guys have been friends for a super long time, and you were also in a band as well early on, and when you guys were in Ohio. So maybe unpack how you guys met and where music kind of brought you guys together, or help. Is that a mutual thing that you both always had, or did one introduce one to the other, or?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I actually remember when we met. My sister, when we were younger, played on the boys' baseball team. And she was like the only girl, but there was no rules against it. So she started playing.
I'm just going to say, small town Ohio, progressive back then.
Agreed. but she joined the boys, and my dad was the coach of the boys baseball team, and Ryan's little brother was on there, and that was kind of like how we would like just kind of talk and stuff at the games and practices. It wasn't until like a really long time later that a bunch of the people that I used to go to grade school with actually showed up randomly at my day or at my house, knocked on the door, and it was a couple of my friends from grade school, and they were like, "Hey, do you still play guitar?" I'm like, yeah. Hi, first of all, I haven't seen you guys in like 5-6 years, but
they knew exactly where you live.
Yeah. Like Ray said, such a small town
before
dude.
the internet, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah. And, and then we just started hanging out and talking. And then, I got introduced to the kind of music that they listen to. Cause I listened to a lot of, I used to hang out with my uncle a lot, who was like an older brother to me. And he would get me into like 80s hair metal and then, like the disco era with like my parents and stuff. So I didn't really listen to a whole lot of like, punk or metal or anything like that. And then I started hanging out with Ryan and Ray, and that kind of built from there. We started playing music with those kids that came over to my house, and then we just kind of been friends from there. And I think that was what, Ray, like 7th grade, 6th grade?
It was probably like 6th grade.
And we're in our 30s now, so we've been friends for a long time. But and then one thing kind of evolves into another, and then you guys being into music, bands get together and fall apart, and then eventually when we were like Ray, like 22, 23-ish, maybe a little older, started the last band that we were in, saw a little bit of success, and it was awesome. It was great. But yeah, that's just like a little backstory of me and him.
We've been in bands though since like 6th grade. Like it would just be you and me just in my basement, like jamming to stupid ass Green Day songs, or and then it was like our high school like screamo band phase, and then we weren't in bands for a couple years. We were kind of just doing our own thing, and then we did like the pop punk band later in our like early 20s, and that was the one that kind of took off a bit, which was cool. But yeah, just been playing music. And I came from like a non-traditional music background. I was like self-taught. I never took any lessons or anything. And obviously you guys have been on my Twitch streams, that I like really gravitate towards like the metalcore, like hardcore stuff, pop punk. But being into that now, I never really grew up listening to like the traditional like metal bands as a kid, like Slayer or Metallica or any of those like bands that people, like random people, jump in the Twitch stream and request, and I'm like, I don't know these songs, and it makes me feel like a poser somewhat, because I'm like, these are staples in this kind of genre, and I'd never listened to them growing up. So very non-traditional way of like getting into it.
Well, I'll tell you, man, just if from Ted introducing us to you guys and whatnot, I wouldn't have thought that you wouldn't have known these bands, because it's so smooth the way that you just improvise to these songs. So, I mean, it was just very intriguing. And now to hear that, like, oh yeah, these are bands I never even heard. I mean, talking about and not having, official lessons and all self-taught. I mean, talk about discipline, to a higher level. That's just incredible. And from a viewer audience standpoint, it's mind-boggling. It's just like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I just love music, so I don't know if you can kind of just figure out where some bands are going to go, like, oh, the next is going to be like a little bridge part, or this is going to be a chorus. So you kind of like can figure it out and improv it. But that's one thing I've learned doing the Twitch stuff, is like improving is like such a big thing on taking song requests, because I have no idea like what people are going to bring into it. So it's been really cool. It's definitely challenged me to do stuff. And you, Matt, requested Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is awesome.
And Jim Croce, Big Bad Leroy Brown.
Yeah.
That was a test. I was like, all right, let's see if this guy could do it, especially with Bad Leroy Brown.
And he crushed it, by the way. It was phenomenal.
And honestly, how many people who are streaming music on Twitch get Jim Croce as a request anyway?
When Matt Bernard is on the same channel.
It's the only one Max in the chat.
Likely.
you see Cleatsman anywhere in your Twitch, you know who you're talking.
You know something weird's coming.
Right. So, follow-up question for being in bands all this time. I started on guitar, and then it played in our bands as a guitarist. But when we lost or changed drummers and we were without one, that's where I picked up the drums, and now it's my primary. I still have guitars, I still dabble in that and bass and all that, but so Joda, is guitar still would be considered your main instrument, or did you switch around? And then same question to Ray, I mean, were you always on drums, or did you start on guitar and migrate? So whoever wants to take that one first.
Joda, you go.
Sure. Yeah, I started off on guitar. My grandfather is a huge influence on me when it comes to music. He could play literally anything. I mean, you hand him a flute for the first time, never see him have a flute in his hands, and he'll play it. You know, and you're like, what? That's crazy. So he was always a huge influence on me. So guitar is really where I started, and kind of just stuck with that. In our last band with pop punk, like I did bass for that, still guitar, but you know, a little bit of a difference. But and then like on earlier bands, like I've played around with like vocals just a little bit. I was never, you know, guitar was always like the passion, you know, for me. But nice. Yeah, nowadays though, I would say that, you know, especially like watching Ray stream and like a lot of other musicians paying attention to those instruments and stuff like that, it's really inspired me personally to be like, you know, I want to try synth. I want to try, maybe I talked to Ray about this, about getting like an electronic drum kit and like learning how to do that. And it's like, you know, so that's where my passion is, guitar, but definitely open for like some more, you know, appeal. I just love music so much, you know?
Sure. Absolutely.
Music is life, dude.
For sure. Very much so. And the best thing about, you know, being a musician, I'm sure that, you know, the five of us can relate to this, is that, you know, you could be so strong in one instrument, but once you get a handle of that instrument, then trying to pick up anything else it's a lot easier than as if you were never introduced to it. So Joda, I definitely feel in that one. You know, there's been a couple of times, and Ted could, you know, reference this, is that, you know, Ted, just a little backstory. Ted, you know, once a month we would get together, especially, you know, for the past, you know, few years, you know, try to get together and just, you know,
monthly
have these jam
session, basically.
Yeah.
Cool.
And one of these, in one of these days, I, instead of bringing my guitar over and my amp and lugging all that shit, you know, I decided to bring over my Roland the JDXI synthesizer. Nice. And we're just kind of like, wait, what the hell is this? And
now, granted, we have enough guitars, so like he didn't need to bring any gear. I already have my own, so he just rolled in with a keyboard under his arm, and he's just like plugs in.
So on a beer table under a Pizza Hut light, we're just like, all right, fuck it, we're just gonna improvise, and we ended up, you know, just going to town with, you know, maybe 3-4 songs that night, just nonstop.
And a little backstory, I do have a Pizza Hut lamp in my basement.
Legit.
Awesome.
Legit, like one of those glass ones from like the mid 90s. Yeah, came out the house.
My hope is one day we can do an in-person episode of Distorted Opinions with the jam session crew and film it under the Pizza Hut light in the basement. Like,
yeah, we'll just have to get our levels right because we're just too fucking loud.
Oh, I know. We'll figure that out.
That's from Back to the Future, where he's like trying out. Remember, you guys are just too dang loud.
I'm sorry, you're just
too loud.
Damn loud. And then you have Marty McFly going,
yeah, he did.
Jennifer.
I love Back to the Future, dude. Back to the Future rules.
I love it. Awesome. I have a magnet on my fridge that's a beer opener, and it's the DeLorean.
That's sick.
That's awesome.
You have to have it.
So, question for Ray: drums always drums, or did you dabble in guitar too?
I started off on guitar as a kid, so kind of similar to Joda's story. One of my cousins is like phenomenal on any instrument. You like Joda said, like you can give him any instrument, he'll just pick it up like he's been playing his whole life. So I always looked up to him. He's maybe like 5-8 years older than me. And maybe like 4th or 5th grade, he gave me one of his old acoustic guitars, and he's like, "Hey, like you're gonna learn how to play guitar today, boy." But anyway, joking aside, he gave me his old acoustic guitar, and he taught me how to do like chords and taught me a couple songs. And I fell in love with guitar. And then I remember getting my first guitar for my birthday in 6th grade. And then after that, like that winter, I was like, I want to do drums, because then my cousin got me on his drum kit and taught me just like the regular like 4/4 basic beat. And that's where I was like, drums are me, dude. Like, I like guitar, but like drums are my thing. So then my parents got me my first drum set in 6th grade. And then from there, it's just like been drums. But I can still play guitar. I've written a couple of the songs in our pop punk band with the other guitarists. So I can still play guitar fine. It's not just like the one I really focus on though.
Right.
And gentlemen, what's the band name of the pop punk band?
Here's to the Heroes.
Here's to the Heroes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's funny that Ryan even says that, like what he was like in our old pop punk band. I even wrote some of the songs. I remember you writing stuff for like our first like post-hardcore screamo days band. Like you used to,
I used to just crank out. That was like my whole life, was skateboarding and like playing music.
Oh, of course. And Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Yeah.
Oh man. Every day
with Goldfinger Superman in the background.
Yes.
Here I am doing everything I can.
Such a classic.
I can listen.
And then
to
if you didn't have a real skateboard, you had the little tech decks that would try to impress
I still
girls.
have my tech decks. I've
The
got
little,
2 of
the
them.
little toy skate park that with the rails and stuff too.
What's up, ladies? Look at my fingers. Kick flip with the index in the middle. That's right. Friday night free. All right. Gotcha. I'll just put my skateboard in my pants, and I'll show you more tricks later.
Oh no.
Oh shit.
Let me change out my trucks. My trucks.
I feel like Matt could just keep going for hours.
Oh, he can.
Yeah, he
That's
can.
not a question.
He can have his own show.
Wait, oh god. Wait, god.
Don't give him that power.
I mean, he can do it on his own. He doesn't need me. Oh, God.
You know Mortal Kombat Raiden?
Yeah.
How are you doing that?
It's his camera glitching out with the light. Like that's
And
he
my camera
yeah, it's my
freaks
camera.
out.
does it on command.
Just
Sweet,
seen
though.
a few episodes ago, he had a white shirt on, and he did that, and he thought it was all cool and funny until his camera froze, and he couldn't get it to unfreeze, so he had to leave and come back. But then he made it a real editing nightmare, because he kept turning his camera on and off, so it would go to like Ted and I, and then 3 of us, and Ted and I, and then 3 of us. I'm like, I'm gonna kill
was
him.
an
When I'm
ass.
sitting there editing, I was like, I'm gonna kill him. He does it again, I'm gonna kill him.
I was an ass.
I think on our stream one time as a bit, I clicked disconnect on the voice call, and we had everything like cut. And as soon as I hit disconnect, it was like, "Brrr," and Ryan's like, bro, get back in. And I was like, oh no, I'm so sorry.
I really messed up with that.
Messed it up.
Audio. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the one plus side. We don't do this live, so if there's some sort of major technical issue, we can at least deal with it in the moment. Like, we've had times where we get in here to do a show, and Ted had an internet problem a few,
Yeah.
like,
I had
I
like
don't know,
no
a month
internet.
or so ago.
Connectivity was terrible, and we
Couldn't hear anything
postponed.
he was saying. We
Yeah.
were like, yeah, we're gonna have to reschedule this. This isn't gonna work. I mean, that's the downside to doing it through the internet. If your internet craps out, that's the
You're
end of
done.
it. There's no show. So
Yep.
yeah, at
Yep.
least we don't have the live aspect, which I don't know. I may be jumping
I'm
ahead
still
of where,
dying to do a live show just to see with the reactions.
I mean, we could. We definitely could.
Do it. Yeah. Me and Ray will be
mean,
there.
they're-
I know that.
Excellent.
Nice.
I just
mean,
take
so-
my shirt off and
Oh,
open up a
that's good.
can
You
of,
can't do that. You
of
have-
crushed pineapple juice
He's
and
already
pour it down my
banned
chest.
He's
immediately.
already banned. Like, you have to have your shirt on Twitch.
We're not doing the live show now. That's
You can't
already
even
gone right
show.
out the door.
You can't even show male nipple, Matt. So you're out.
This goes against social media policy. I guess people don't like pineapple. Must be the same people that don't like ham and pineapple on their pizza.
Dude, I remember the first stream Ray did. He got really, really hot and threw his shirt off. And in Discord, I'm yelling at him, TOS, TOS, TOS. And he's like,
Yeah.
not paying attention at all. And he's like,
Oh,
what
yeah.
do you mean, man? And then I explained it to him. He's like, oh, shit, dude.
I didn't know about it either because I would just drum shirtless if I could because I sweat so much. But
Seriously, do
can't.
they actively? Is there somebody actively checking for that? That's going to kill your stream if that happens.
I mean,
Or is it? Do you get like a fee or something? For is it like the FCC where if you swear on the air they send you a fee?
So
I don't know. They'll take down any VOD after the fact, and then depending on the offense, you could lose your account for 30 days.
Okay.
yeah, like normally, and if it's like bad enough or against like certain things, they'll just straight up pull you off the air. Like I've been pulled one time because I accidentally streamed a banned game, which I didn't know was banned, but they pulled me down in like record time. It was like 15 seconds of going live.
what game was
wow.
it?
I'm not gonna say because I
Can't
don't
even
remember
say
what it's
it.
called.
That's how banned it is.
I legit don't know what it's called. And if I
Because the
explain to you-
FCC won't let me be. They tried to shut me down on MTV.
On Twitch TV.
On
Twitch TV.
On Twitch TV.
The new
But
MTV.
if I tried to explain it to you, you guys would immediately be like, "Oh, well, no shit, it's banned," but it's not as bad as it sounds. So
We'll leave
Should've never brought
the
this up.
mystery there.
All right.
I'm totally gonna Google it now.
I mean,
Matt
so-
could have come on to part 2 because
he's been banned. So I mean, I feel like that we may have to have you guys on again just to talk about the whole DMCA situation, because I know you guys have talked about that on your own stream as well. The issues with not just music obviously, but playing video games because of the soundtracks in the video games. So I don't know that we want to get into that right now because I feel like that's a whole show just in itself. But
Like we were saying beforehand, I'll go in. So I'm gonna lay that. I'm not gonna touch it.
Yeah, that's right.
all right.
I'll go on for hours on this topic. So we should not touch it.
We'll have you guys back on, and then you can have the opportunity to go on for hours because we'll just plan for that to be like a whole episode. But I don't know, Ted, I don't want to veer off where you were headed with the line of conversation, but since we're kind of there with the streaming thing and we kind of touched on, our show's pre-recorded, you guys go live on Twitch with Slayerbytes. And so I'm wondering, A, kind of what led you to decide to do that live, and why, I guess, yeah, we'll start with that. Let's go with why live versus recorded, because I think, you can see where we might have some issues if we went live, but at the same time, I feel like there's also that audience interaction that you get with a live stream, so there's an upside to that. But yeah, I'm curious as to how the Slayerbytes podcast came about, and also why you opted to go with streaming that live as opposed to pre-recording it like a lot of people do.
let me just say for the record that Slayerbytes is a badass name too, by the way.
It is.
thank you.
Yeah, and it's Bytes, BYTES.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
so good.
Slayerbytes.
Thank you.
Dude, that's the intro there. We should just take that sound clip from Matt.
We'll send it to you afterwards.
Thank you. We will definitely use that. But yeah, like as far as the podcast goes, we've kind of like a long time ago we talked about doing a podcast just as like a group of friends type of thing, and just kind of just hop on there and just BS about whatever we want and just see if people listens. That kind of tapered off a long time ago, and then when COVID came around, and we were all like locked up in our houses and can't really do much, we were like, I was thinking like, hey, that would be awesome to kind of revisit that idea of a podcast. And then Ray and I were talking, and he was like, yeah, that would be really cool, but what would you want to talk about? And we've always been like super big into technology and stuff like that, and music, of course. And I was like, hey man, why don't we combine them? Like, there's really not a whole lot of shows that do that, right? And he's like, yeah, that could be really fun. And just kind of took off from there. As far as streaming it goes, we were like, I stream video games for years on Twitch, on and off, not very consistently. And I was like, that would be really cool because there's like the just chatting channels and getting that live interaction from your audience. It really adds an extra layer of not only interaction, but also content too, because, you have that. I always say that it's like having that Twitch audience is like it's kind of like a wave behind you that you kind of ride, you know what I mean? Where it's like, it's, I don't know how to exactly explain it, but it's like
peeing in the ocean. It's
yeah. It feels good, and, and being,
you got a little bit of warm and then you get the cold to refresh you.
Exactly.
So, I mean, if it's too warm, you got to fall asleep in the ocean and then drown, but at least you get the water to wake your ass up.
Right.
Totally get it. Don't drink the water.
But yeah, so we were like, Twitch could definitely be a fun thing. Let's give it a shot and see how it goes, and then kind of just went from there and keep doing it, and getting more interaction as we're going, and it adds another level of like that real time kind of feedback of what you're doing too, to where if you're like saying a topic that maybe not a lot of people are talking about, you can be like, okay, well, let's just kind of wrap this up a little bit. This isn't very interesting. Or, you can be like, oh, let's go in further on it, and then chatting it up and stuff like that. So it adds like a whole new dynamic to just the audio recording, which we did, previously to the Twitch, of course. But it was just like something like, it was honestly almost like a spur of the moment, like, hey, let's just try it, see how it feels, and then it just kind of continued, and I know that I really enjoyed doing it. It's great seeing everybody in the chat and talking to you guys live. So yeah. Nice.
Great.
Yeah. I mean, so I know we talked a little bit before we started recording the show today about like when we started doing Distorted Opinions, because we pre-record them, we didn't release them until we had 7 or 8 of them in the can. So like, I know that we kind of found that as we progressed with the show, not only did we start to figure out what worked and what didn't and improve it, but also like we kind of figured out what people liked as far as show topics. But then it gets a little weird when you're that far ahead, because now you're having a show like, so we had gotten to a point where we were before Thanksgiving and we were set, our next show had to be our Christmas episode. And Ted
I put my foot down. I'm not talking about Christmas before Thanksgiving.
Ted was pretty demanding on that
immediately
one.
took 4 weeks off.
We were like a hot dog.
Yeah, I was like, I can't. Like, I don't know. The world might be different. We might be talking about other things. Like, and coincidentally, now that at this point in time, we've already recorded it. It's already set to come out. Today, actually, for the Christmas episode,
today,
right?
in like 50 minutes.
Yeah. So like being able to react to, looking forward to like the news that the COVID vaccine came out. You know what I mean? Like how much perspective has changed for the optimism for 2021 as it would have been. And when we don't even like to talk about current events, but just the reality of where things are at that moment in recording versus, gives a different trajectory to the conversation, knowing that, the end's in sight. We can talk about jam sessions in 2021. You know what I mean? Like we're heading in a better direction than we would have been had we had recorded this 7 weeks before. Like, right. You never, it just changes the mood a little bit.
It got really weird. Like we had one of our guests a while back, Luke Condon, on, and we had Luke on in October. And so it was like part of the conversation was like, hey, so this episode's going to drop right after election. So for all we know, the world's going to be burning to pieces. But here we are having a good time on the show. And it was just, it is really, while it's nice to have that buffer, it is kind of hard to also have that buffer because you're so far ahead that addressing certain things is a bit challenging. So I can definitely see where, particularly doing it live and having actual audience interaction during a live show where that could be beneficial, because there's also times too where even if we're releasing them closer to when we record them, we're still not getting that immediate feedback from people. And so we have, some people who will email us or reach out and, make comments or whatever, but it's really hard to tell like what topics, kind of like what you said, it's easier to tell in the moment. If a topic is not really something of interest to people, you can kind of change that. And so like, I know Matt, you had mentioned at one point that you had gotten some feedback from people that they like the show, but aren't as big on our teacher appreciation episodes because they don't necessarily know who those teachers are. And that definitely makes sense.
Understanding.
Yeah.
That's understanding.
So, I mean, yeah.
It all depends on the certain topics too. I mean, I think, one of the topics we talk about is, concerts and video games has been, high on our ratings. And then when we talk about, the personal side of like, teachers, where the only people that would really understand that are people that we went to school with and ourselves. So,
it's like
but that element of, that element of, getting that reaction is it's a little low or not, but at the same time too, it doesn't stop us from, having audience still reach out to us and, say, is Matt gonna get the fucking email right, back and forth.
Because for the longest time he hasn't, and he was saying the wrong email address, and it was a meme.
Episodes 1 through probably 25, I just fuck up the email. If you want a good laugh, I just fuck it up.
It's not that hard either.
It really isn't. I think one of them I just said screw it. I just said you could find me at matt@pornhub.com.
I believe that was exactly what you said.
It is exactly what he said.
It is.
We're all sober too, so can you imagine if we were baked or high on this one? Or drunk?
It is a delicate balance though between like having a niche topic and like just having a niche thing that you're into, and then doing like a broader conversations, because it is easy to get a following fast if you are like a very niche thing. Like the other, like I think it might have been like a couple streams ago where Ted and I were talking about kick pedals on my Twitch stream.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we went in on double kick pedals and everything, and like everything about the pedal. And in my head, I'm like, I think this is really interesting to like Ted, I, and maybe like one other drummer in the stream.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking Iron Cobras and the DW7000.
Yeah, and then like spring tension, and then like rod length, and like beater height, and then like
Rod length.
yo,
I mean,
I believe we had a gear talk.
rod
where we
length
talked about
is a big concern, right?
it is, and beater height makes a big difference, dude. You should know.
meter heights and rods, they're pretty important.
But yeah, it's this interesting like balance between the two, because we could get like a bunch of just drummers in the stream talking about like drums specifically in the chat, and then me talking about it while playing drums. But I mean, you can only get so far with that type of audience where you're like, all right, like let's get some like diversity in here with like people that want to talk about different topics, get other people's ideas in here. So it's a delicate balance. And starting off a podcast, it's always like, what are we going to talk about? Let's talk about technology, or let's talk about music. And then that's a broad topic, but then you're like, oh, well, we should probably talk about this type of technology, like gaming culture or something. But then you can keep going down and just kind of just narrow your audience down to like 5 people, and they'll listen to you, but you're not going to get more than 5 people.
Right.
So it's just a weird thing to figure it out ahead of time, I don't know.
I mean, when you guys were talking about pedals, definitely in the back of my mind, the first thing that popped in my head was, man, this would be a good gear talk right now.
Yeah, I know. Our little side segment about gear.
Ted did a whole segment a few months ago on drumsticks, and I learned more than I ever thought I would need to know about drumsticks. I don't play drums.
It was a clinic.
Yeah, it was. Like, informative, let me tell you. It was also very immature. There was a lot of laughter because...
Of course there was.
I mean, again,
Matt,
you're talking
Matt
about
was
length
there.
and thickness.
Those are layups. Yeah.
I know, it was like an absolute underhand of like, here you go. So we had plenty of laughs.
I wish I was available for that pedal talk. I would have loved it. Right now, like if you get over here, right where my finger is all so far like at least half of my my pedals that I'll use, and then the other half is all on my board.
It's a
Oh
different
wait,
pedals.
they were
Yeah.
talking
Different
drum
pedals.
pedals. You know,
Oh,
kick
kick
pedals,
pedals.
not
Those
stop
pedals.
boxes.
Guitarists
Gotcha.
thinking they know everything.
I feel you, Ted.
Hey.
I'm with you on that.
Wait a
Well,
minute.
drummers are
not
usually
a
the
Kayla,
last
not a
ones to get
Kayla.
drummers are usually the
guys
last
are
ones to get
talking
the groupie.
We're outnumbered, Ted. It's 3-2 on the guitars versus
I
drums.
know. That's why I needed you on my team, so I wouldn't be completely outnumbered.
Oh God.
The Raiden, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, shit.
Man. So I
goodness.
suppose for we're talking about your podcast. I've certainly listened to a number of your episodes, and I don't have a strong following on technology and things, so I do find that the topics that you guys discuss are rather informative, or I mean, even though they're your opinion on the news or whatever. Oh, such and such is reported that XYZ is happening. It is very, I don't know. I really enjoy it because it's a different perspective that I normally don't get to hear about. But I know you guys from Twitch. I'm like, it's these guys. Like, I'm all in. Like, what are we talking about this week? You know what I mean? So, no, I definitely enjoy your podcast because it is a different flavor than just a straight music podcast, which is what we focus on here. But it's definitely got good content.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
I feel like we tend to focus like too much on tech stuff, though. I feel like the last couple episodes we've done, we really haven't touched music at all. We need to like make it a point to talk about music more.
Now, when you guys talk about technology or whatnot, do you guys also have do you guys talk about on topics of like building systems, or maybe just utilizing something that's like pretty creative, like utilizing like the Raspberry Pi or anything like of that nature, maybe building your own emulator?
Yeah, actually, well, Ray and I, sorry, we've always been like super techie. I mean, like even like I remember when we were younger and we would get really bad snowstorms back in Ohio where we're from, and we would be bored during the winter, and Ray would just be like, "Hey, you want to go build a computer? I think I got some parts in the back in the garage. You want to build one?"
Dude, I would take apart my dad's work PCs. He would get like a new PC like every year, but they would let him keep his old ones. And they were just like 3 or 4 in the basement. I'm like, I'm taking these apart and I'm building something. He was taking apart like my dad's company's like property, but whatever. They never found out.
I just got the latest Windows 95.
Yeah, pretty
Windows
much.
ME.
Yeah.
Got this thing called AOL and I hacked it.
But yeah, man.
No
like
more magazines. Haley, you know what I'm talking about, right? Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So you built that's awesome. That's great to hear. So just I can imagine that being in that same room and just be like, hey, I feel like building a computer. All right, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, and to be honest, man, like even like when I was younger, like my dad like was real big into like computers and stuff like that, and then like having a friend like Ryan being in that same kind of tech headspace when we were that young, and then even moving forward, like today, like I built a couple of retro Pis with with the emulators in it and stuff like that. It's even transitioned in my career, like in my professional life, I'm an IT engineer. Like I've always had that draw to technology, and I think that's one of the things that Ray and I really gravitated toward each other, based on our love for tech too. So it was music and tech that kind of like built our friendship. So it's only feels right for it to also be the topics of our show.
It's like the creme brulee to a torch. It just makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
You have fire and then you have sweetness behind it.
Oh man, you're making me hungry.
That's what she said. Well, that's awesome. That's amazing, man. And that's perfect. That is perfect.
Oh,
What, the
Matt
creme
is the
brulee?
king. Matt is the king
Oh.
of analogies. In
Well,
case
at
you
least I
haven't
try.
figured
At
it
least
out.
I try.
analogies.
Sometimes there are crickets, and it's like, wait, what? I'm like, don't worry about it. Let's move on.
No,
Dude,
try it
the
until it
analogies.
sticks.
Matt sent me some video on
Analogies,
Facebook
not
Messenger
analgies.
the other night, and I almost choked taking a sip of I was in the middle of drinking a sip of tea when I opened this thing, and I was like, what the hell is this? Like, typical Matt, he sends something to the text thread, and it's like, if it's coming from him, you look at it and you know it's going to be something that he found in the far reaches of the internet that nobody
dude.
else would ever find on YouTube. And you have to just brace yourself. Because you know what's coming. I did not expect it through a message on Facebook, and it totally caught me off guard. So, my bad.
Was it the Mariah Carey one?
I don't know what it was. It was the guy, like, starts at a close-up of his butt, but I
Yeah,
thought
the
it was a
Mariah Carey
woman.
one, yeah.
Is that what it was? I didn't have audio on because I was sitting in the living room, and I just saw it, and I'm like, what is this? All of a sudden, he steps back, and I'm like, what? Oh, no,
No,
I
we're
feel
not
like he's
sharing it.
about to... No,
No,
don't.
no.
Hold on.
No.
Hold on. We
God.
opened up Pandora's box.
Oh, no.
God.
Ow.
That wasn't an
no.
invite to share it again.
I don't know if it
Oh,
should
there
be
you are,
shared at this
Kayla.
moment.
I
It's a
found you.
live. We're going to
yeah,
use this audio.
Well, not only are we going to use the audio, but I'm going to post the video.
And we're going to get copyrighted because it's a famous song.
Yeah, I think it was like a TikTok video or something that he
Either way.
found somewhere.
It was a beautiful
He-
TikTok and so awkwardness too.
We'll share it after we've wrapped up this episode. You can share it.
Yeah, in between.
If anybody feels so compelled, I can share the link in the description of the show.
All right. Okay.
Oh,
You're welcome.
God.
We,
So
you
much
can,
for later.
Kayla gave a heart emoji to this.
oh, no.
Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen.
I didn't have the audio on. All I saw was the visual. Literally had just taken a sip of my tea and damn near almost choked.
It's before dinner time too, right?
I don't know what time it was. Not nearly late enough for me to have felt that I was okay with opening that message, okay? Just
Listen.
Oh,
That's just
God.
a scratch on the surface on what the shit I send to you guys.
Got it.
it is.
That was
yeah,
that
you're
was
gonna-
tame compared to everything else.
That's
Oh.
a glimpse of what the jam session text thread looks like with Matt on it, because it's just all kinds of stuff like that. For the people that are listening to the show, consider yourselves lucky.
Yeah.
You've been spared of the visual. Let me just put it that
Yep.
way. So anyway, with that,
I
now
have
that
one
we've-
last question because I've been
Yeah.
dying to know.
Go right ahead.
We already elaborated you guys are in Washington and you were talking about all this time in Ohio. How the heck did both of you wind up in Washington?
I was wondering
Because
the same thing.
I'm just curious.
And
you-
Joda lives like 15 minutes away from me. So not only did we move to the same state across the country, but pretty
I
much
mean,
the
it
same
sounds
neighborhood.
coordinated.
Well,
It sounds super coordinated.
so this was like 2013. I moved out to Washington, the Seattle area. And before moving out here, I've done road trips out here. I've done like backpacking trips in the mountains out here. I just fell in love with Western Washington. And that was through college. And then I made it a point, like, I'm moving out to Seattle eventually. Like, that's my goal. So 2013, I was working at the Microsoft store in Kenwood, Cincinnati, Ohio, in the mall there. And again, this sounds so weird. I worked with Joda at that store. We worked at the same retail store. And then we eventually
It was
became-
like peas and carrots.
dude, I've been with this dude since we've been in like 5th grade. Like, Anyway, so we became good friends with one of the managers that worked at the Cincinnati store, and then he got promoted to the Seattle store, and then we were friends at the Cincinnati store. His name's also Matt, and he's actually War Bear in
Oh, okay.
Okay.
In the chat that you've seen. Now he's at like corporate Microsoft. Like he's a big guy now, but he knew that I wanted to move out here. So basically it took him like a month after he moved out to Seattle, and he emailed me and he's like, if you apply to this position, you got it, you can move out here. And I'm like, no way, dude, whatever. And he's like, just apply and I swear you'll get it. So I applied, and then like 2 weeks later he calls me up and he's like, you ready to move, dude? So I'm like, yeah, man. This is like August 2013, and then I worked at that store for like a year, and then I worked at a startup for 3 years doing like technical support engineer stuff. Hated it. That's not my thing, but it just didn't vibe with me. Anyway, so I think you moved out here like 2017, Joda?
Yeah, just 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so the whole
Separated
time Joda
for 4 years and then reunited again.
This is the longest 4 years of my life.
And it felt so good.
It sounds like it.
But, and that
We got matching tattoos when I first moved.
don't show the knit.
Got the tramp stamp. Look.
I mean, you guys both have tattoos, so I wouldn't put it past you that you would have matching ones at this point.
We don't have any matching ones.
Not yet. No.
We got matching glasses and a mustache, though.
That we do. Exact same frame, to be
Badass
honest.
mustache. Those I can't see.
Thank you.
But between that time, Joda had lived in Columbus, Ohio for those 3 or 4 years. And then he moved out to Washington. And then he stayed at my apartment that my wife and I had for like 2 or 3 months. We helped them out, and then they got their in spot.
There you
Yeah.
go.
So it was kind of coordinated,
Wow,
but also
that's
just kind of
awesome.
like happened on its own. And we didn't like force it.
It sounds a
kinda
little
just-
forced.
It was a little forced, don't lie, right? Because like
It sounds a
every
little
weekend,
forced.
dude, every weekend I would get pictures and text messages like, where you at, bro? And it's like the most beautiful fucking mountains you've ever seen in your life with like this glacier lake nestled at the bottom. He's like, where you at? Next weekend, another one, dude. And it's just constant.
Dude, summers out here are the best,
They
hands
are.
down.
Hands down, dude.
It's like-
Hands down.
It's like that State Farm commercial, like when you're on the phone and then the wife comes out. Who you on the phone with? Don't worry about it. No, who is this? Who's
It's
this?
Joda.
State Farm.
It's Joda.
Joda who?
Joda from State Farm.
What's he wearing?
From Microsoft.
But dude, like we came out here a couple of times, meaning me and my girlfriend came out here a couple of times, and I've never been this far out from Ohio. Like I was kind of like the homebody kid, like never really went out of my hometown, you know? And then he asked me to come out here and visit a couple times, came out here. I mean, I loved it. I came out here solo first time, second time brought the girlfriend, fell in love. And then of course it's such a good place to move for the tech industry too. So it helps my career. I get to be near, you know, Ray and get to see all these beautiful things, and let's do it. So we just pulled the trigger and came on out, and we love it. I mean, we've been out here 3 years now. It's awesome.
I will say, go ahead, Ted, go ahead.
I was going to say I've been fortunate enough to be in Western Washington for the past 5 years, off and on for work, and completely understand the beauty and the valley and the islands and North Cascade National Park and all that, and then Olympia and all the peninsula and whatnot. That whole Western Washington is awesome. Definitely top 3 spot for me if I were to need to relocate out of Massachusetts. Washington, easy top 3. Like, beautiful. Don't
Come
blame
out
me
and
it for any second there.
Come out and hang out with us, brother. You're always
I'll let you
welcome.
know when I'm out there.
Yes.
Then
Yeah.
4 years later, I'll follow.
Okay. We'll start a band.
There we go.
That would be
drums.
amazing. 2 drums, yeah. 1 guitar, 2 drums. Yeah, I moved out here and like never looked back. I miss my friends and like family in Ohio, but they can come out and see me, dude. I'm never moving. I love it out here, dude.
Nice.
But to bring it back to music, though, when I moved out here in 2013, the hardest part was leaving the band, because at that time, the pop punk band that we were in, Here's to the Heroes, that was like, we were still like rising, I would say.
Yeah.
And the hardest part was like, do I stay in Ohio with this band, or do I go to Washington that I've always wanted to do? And like, that's where I want to live, and that's where I see myself. So that was such a hard thing. I remember getting the news that I got that job out here, and I was like, I'm moving, dude. Like, I'm leaving in 2 weeks. And I remember getting on like the face group chat with the band guys, and I'm like typing out this. I'm a very emo dude. I'm a very sensitive guy. And I remember typing out this long message, and I'm just fucking bawling my eyes out because I'm saying like, I'm leaving, guys. Like, I'm moving to Washington. I've always wanted to live here, but I can't be in the band anymore. And I remember just crying, like sending this message to these guys. And I've known Joda forever. I've known these other guys longer than we've been in the band too, because I've known Curtis and Dave years before we started the band together. So I knew these guys for a long time. And like saying bye to like them and my other friends in Cincinnati and my parents and my brother, and leaving this band that we play shows with, have these house parties with. It sucks saying bye, but I don't know. I love living out here, and this is where I want to be. So good things always come out of shitty situations for the most part.
Well, hey, that's
like
when you know
just
you have a brotherhood right there. You know, being in a band is, it's like a brotherhood.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, if you don't have a good relationship with, your band members, I mean, like,
What's the
dude,
point? Yeah.
Exactly. Like, dude, we got to the point where in Here's to the Heroes, I mean, Ray, there were almost weeks where we would not leave Curtis's house. Like our guitarist had a house that was pretty much just his. And, that's where we'd have our house shows and stuff like that. And dude, it got to the point where it was literally like work, pick up food on the way to Curtis's house, sleep at Curtis's house, wake up, work, and then just doing it all over again. And man, it was a blast. It was the best times.
I feel like we were really fortunate though, because everyone lived so close to each other.
Yeah.
Like Curtis's house I lived at my parents' house till I moved out here. I was like, I'm saving money to move out, but I was a weirdo and I stayed at my parents till I was 25. Anyway,
That's not weird.
Curtis's house was literally like 3-4 minutes away from my parents' house at the time. And Joda lived close. Dave lived at Kurt's house. And then Corey was like the farthest one with like a 15-minute drive. So it was so easy to get together and play music at like 11:30 at night. Like we were young, we didn't give a shit. And Curtis owned the house too. So I feel like we were lucky with our whole setup for sure.
We were.
I mean, our jam sessions here, I mean, because it's at my house, like we're playing until 2 a.m.
Yeah,
and
we're also in the middle of the woods too.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty remote too, so I'm not bothering anyone, no noise complaints or anything like that. So we have that luxury of the late night jams and no repercussions on that front. So that's awesome.
That's always when the best music ideas come out too, is late at night.
Yeah.
Oh, big time. Big time. And the further you drink later in the night, the songs even get better. Next thing you know, you have a whole album. It's like, okay, bring it on, Justin Bieber. I got you little fuck.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Well, I hate to change topics, but it's probably
song of the week.
I think it's song of the week
it's probably
time.
that time. Yeah. So normally we don't throw our guests in as the first round on this. So Matt and Ted, we didn't really discuss this before the show. Who wanted to go first? If you guys want, I can go first and get out of the way, or
Doesn't matter. I'm already got my pick, so I'm ready to go.
all right. I'll go ahead and go first. So, quick reminder before I tell you what my pick is. We have a Song of the Week Spotify playlist that we put all of our Song of the Week picks in their entirety into every week. We put the link to that in the description of every show. So as long as the song is on Spotify, it's in that playlist. Check it out. And with that said, I had a really hard time narrowing down my picks this week, but I finally narrowed it down to one. And I went with Alfie Templeman's Used to Love off of the 2019 release Don't Go Wasting Time. I actually just realized that he released an album in 2020, which I didn't know about. Otherwise, it may have made it into my cut for best of 2020 when we did our last episode of our 2020 highlights, but I have to go listen to that. This one I initially heard on SiriusXM's Alt Nation. They were playing it a lot throughout 2019. It's a really great, laid-back, chill alternative track. I listened to it a lot in 2019, and then I haven't listened to it in a bit, and then I actually revisited my alt playlist on Spotify when I was watching Ray's stream, and I was looking for potential song request suggestions, and I heard that one again. I was like, oh man, this is such a good song. And so it's been kind of on a loop with a few other songs for the last couple of weeks, but really great track. I challenge you to listen to it and try to only listen to it once without listening to it on repeat several times, because it's just so good. So Alfie Templeman, Used to Love, that's my pick for Song of the Week, and I'm going to pass it off to whoever wants to go next.
All right,
Who wants to take it?
I'll take it because
right.
this one is one of the albums I picked for some of the highlights of 2020. Was Lamb of God's self-titled album that had come out over the summer, and it is phenomenal. I hinted at this song, but I think it needs its own pure dedicated Song of the Week selection. It is my favorite track on that new album, and it's called Resurrection Man, and it has everything that you love about Lamb of God, if you do, and it just has all that gritty guitar, and the drum work is excellent. Randy's vocals are great, and obviously with the new drummer as of this particular album, kind of gives it a different flair than what Chris Adler was doing over the prior 20 years that he was with the band. So you still get a lot of the similar drum vibes, but it definitely, I don't know, adds a little different character, and it's still very much a typical heavy Lamb of God song. So Resurrection Man, definitely my pick for this week.
Nice.
Game set. Gentlemen, any one of you guys would like to talk about your song of the week? Do you have a song of the week?
I've got two picks because I don't know if Joda's going to pick one of mine.
Hey, Matt has it's already happening on this show. I've picked one, and I picked Bush Machine Head, and it was already taken. So had to redirect. So
we at least discussed
is
that
very,
at the beginning of the show, though, so it wasn't like a surprise during Song of the Week time.
So,
Joda, you go first.
You want me to go first? The song of the week that I brought to you guys this week is from the metal band Darko US. One of actually Ryan's viewers in his stream, a Ray's stream, brought this up, and man, I cannot stop listening to it. The song's called Insects, again by Darko US. It's super heavy. Right out of the gate, there's this like really awesome like drone going on, and then as soon as the music hits in, it punches you in the face, and it does not really let up. But what I love about it though, it's got this groove, like this real like sick groove to it. That's really fun. Uber heavy. The vocalist has a crazy good range, and a little bit of info that I didn't know until recently. Actually, it has one of the members from Amir and one of the members from Chelsea Grin in it as well. So to kind of give you like an idea of their sound, but highly recommend it. I absolutely love them. I cannot stop listening to this. And that song is always the first song I play during the day. So check it out. You guys might like it.
Nice.
That's awesome. Awesome.
So Ray, was that your song?
No, that wasn't my song. But that song rules though. The drums are insane on that song.
Totally gonna be listening to it after this cast.
Absolutely.
My pick is going to be one of the new tracks that Every Time I Die just released a couple of days ago, or maybe last week actually. Desperate Pleasures. That song is so good. It's crazy because it starts off slower, and then by the end you're just like punching the air because all you want to do is just like circle pit and mosh. But the crazy thing for me is Every Time I Die never really had drums that sound. I'm a drummer obviously, so I always listen to the drums in songs over anything else. And the drums in their two new tracks that they've come out with, it sounds like they got a new drummer, but they didn't. But it's just way more complex than what you're used to hearing from Every Time I Die drum wise. I'm excited because they haven't come out with anything in like 4 years, so I love these two new tracks they came out with, and they're definitely going back to their older sound. even though the drums are different than their older sound, if that makes sense to you guys. I recommend checking both out. It's Desperate Pleasures, and then the other song is called A Colossal Wreck. But Desperate Pleasures is my song of the week.
I have a quick
Nice.
question. Which one did you think that I was gonna pick?
Desperate Pleasures.
Okay, yeah, I would have. I forgot about it. Otherwise, I would have picked that one.
See, there it is.
Backup plan was a good idea.
Yeah,
know.
totally.
I like it.
Nice.
That's awesome, gentlemen. Awesome. All right. Well, that leaves me with me and whatnot. And, my pick of the week is going to be one of those one-hit wonder albums, which I was going to be toying with in one of our previous episodes with, the one-hit wonders. However, I wanted to go with that, the Third Eye Blind, album. But this one, it actually came by surprise. And being a fan of Shinedown, I actually came across these guys accidentally on AAF. But I'm talking about the band Double Drive from the 2003 album Blue in the Face, specifically their single hit Imprint. When I first heard this album, specifically this song, just the opening riffs, that mild distortion riff to Imprint, and those lyrics just reminded me of two things. One, is the Shinedown, and two, wow, this also has like an Alice in Chains, like early 90s vibe to it. And the further I was listening into the song Imprint, it was just like it was like a punch to my ears. I instantly fell in love with it in the first 30 seconds, listened to the whole album, and I think it's just one of those underrated albums that was just really not, I felt like it was taken for granted because, AAF for a while, and AAF, gentlemen, is the local rock station that's
no longer on the air,
It's no longer
unfortunately.
here.
Boston's rock station.
It was a rock station, in our area, and they played it for I want to say a couple months. 2003 was a great era for like kind of bringing in a little bit of that American grunge type of vibe, bands. But Double Drive, I mean, they have two albums. One that came out in '99, which was Tattoo Bruised, and I'm sorry, 1,000 Yard Stare, and then they came out with Blue in the Face. But it's sad to say because you don't really hear the bands anymore. You don't hear the band anymore. So if I mean, who knows? If the guys listen to this podcast and say, hey, at least we had one person that liked that song. It'd be great for you guys to get back together and, create another album because, Imprint was just a phenomenal song. But that's going to be my pick of the week. Double Drive's Imprint from the 2003 album Blue in the Face.
Nice.
Other than that, I mean, that's like our first half of the show. Joda, Ray, you guys have been awesome. Definitely look forward to, part two of this because, I mean, we have so much laughs. I can't wait to see the bloopers because we got a bunch of bloopers that, we're going to go ahead and, we'll show to the world. And other than that, if you want to reach us, we do have an email. Hey, ready? Here we go. It's going to be distortedopinionsshow@gmail.com.
Hey!
Yes, I didn't fuck it up this time. And I'm actually pretty good. I'm getting better at this one. But yes, distortedopinionsshow@gmail.com. And you could also check us out on different platforms such as Anchor at Anchor.fm. And
Anchor.
Kayla, what else? Oh, Kayla's cringing. Oh, I fucked that one up. You know what, Nat? You're retired.
And we're going to let Kayla take the outro because she has
Yes.
all of those things.
Alrighty,
Please.
so
Rein this back in, would you?
if
I need
you
a
would
beer.
prefer, if you would prefer to get in touch with us by leaving a voicemail, you can find us on Anchor at anchor.fm/distortedopinions. You can also find links to all of our social media pages, as well as a partial list of where you can find the show in audio-only format. We did also just find out today that we are now also on radio.com, so you can find us there as well. As Matt said, you can send an email to distortedopinionshow@gmail.com if you prefer to do an email. And you can reach out to us on any of our social media platforms as well. So
Very
with
much
that, thank you, Ray and Joda, for joining us. We're looking forward to having you join us again in part 2, where we continue more of our music discussion. So
I'm
Yeah,
already
awesome.
excited for part 2. I'm perspirating.
Perspiring? Perspirating?
Perspiring, whatever.
Like, I went along with it, dude. Like, yeah, that's how you say it.
We'll call him out on it. Don't worry.
Paspirating, whatever. I don't care. This show is not sponsored by Degree.
No, but if they wanted to sponsor us, we wouldn't turn it down.
Right.
So with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week with Ray and Joda joining us again. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.